Let's party! It's party time that we let's party and then we start to party. I think that's how it goes.
Got two bots going to talk about D&D. It will be fun and you should join.
Talk about bards!
Or you kiss groin. Sorry, I didn't hear you. I didn't have my headphones on. What's up?
Or you kiss groin.
Or you kiss groin.
That's a wonderful way to put it. All right, we are here for Let's Party Bards. The concept of discussing the idea of an entire party made up of just bards. Like 4 or 5 characters. Well, yeah, math's not too important. Here with Dylan. Hi, Dylan.
Hi, guys. Thanks
now,
for having me.
Yeah. Now, there's a particular reason we have you representing bards, and you can share why.
I would say like the last 3 of my characters were bards.
Right.
And that was in 5th edition and 5e.
Yeah.
And then I played more bards in 3.5. Back when I remember I didn't get started I didn't get started playing D&D until I was like 21. And I think 3.5 was like the hot stuff then. And I was like, ooh, bards, what are they good for? And at the time it was like, oh, dying.
Yeah. Hide behind the pile of dead bards.
And now there's so
actual
good.
Quote from an actual D&D movie. But yeah, bards are awesome in 5th edition.
So good.
I think for me, just as we'll start with just general bard overview. The whole concept of a support class that's excellent in roleplay situations, has a lot of skill options, has a lot of spell options, basically the jack of all trades character, but instead of being a master of none, they're actually kind of the master of a few. There's an argument to be made for the 20th level wizard sounds really scary, but a 20th level bard does kind of the same thing, but more hit points.
And more charisma. And
yeah.
More, I guess, persuasive abilities.
Right. Is technically speaking, not the highest persuasion you can get is not the bard. It goes to one of the fighter subclasses.
Fighter subclass.
There's a fighter subclass that gets a bonus of that. Sort of like how they're technically a rogue could have a higher Arcana bonus than a wizard, but they don't have detect magic or identify, as a rogue. But they could have expertise in Arcana and prioritize their intelligence, and then have that. There's, I think the samurai fighter can add their charisma and their wisdom modifier to persuasion, and if they pick up the feat prodigy to pick up expertise in that, then they can end up with a really crazy persuasion bonus.
God, that is crazy.
Which does get extra broken if you ever look in the DMG for what persuasion can do. And I guess this relates into the bards, where there's in the DMG, I forget the page number, but it gives examples of things persuasion can do. And if you have a friendly creature and you can get a 20 persuasion check, they'll just give you things, as long as they're not directly going to die by doing so. It's like, hey man, I know that's your great grandfather's sword. That's a legacy magic item, but we really need it for this battle, and we've been friends for a while. And it's just you roll it, and as a 5th level bard, you'd be like, well, let's see, I've got a +4 charisma and a +3 modifier, and I have expertise, so it's really +10. I rolled a 10, so he's gonna give me that legacy magic item that was his great grandfather's.
Oh my god!
It's we were already friends, so obviously he'll give me his artifact.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of us will rule with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if I could ever do that in a game.
Bump that to a 25 DC or something. But rules as written, persuasion can be really crazy. But yeah, we will. That's a good amount of aside, and we'll jump into bards. So we'll start with. I think it's probably best to start with roleplay. I mean, we'll go over combat, exploration, and roleplay, but we'll probably just start with roleplay. I know a couple. I've marked down a few of my favorite bards, and even added them on Twitter, but they're not watching. If anybody is watching, pop in the comments if anything. Siobhan Thompson plays this amazing lore bard. I'm pretty sure it's a lore bard. In the Dimension 20 show from College Humor, Unsleeping City, where she's this like fabulous old theater actress, and it's a wonderful example of like an alternate bard. Like a lot of us think of bard, we think of Sam Riegel's minstrel, yeah. A lot of us will think of like the stereotypical like horny bard, which Sam Riegel kind of did in the first Critical Role campaign, where he's just like the bard that just sleeps with everybody, and it's just super fun and everybody blah blah blah. Now Sam Riegel's a good voice actor, and he was able to he added some layers, and that character got a little bit complex and stuff, but was mostly there to have fun and be a simple fun bard character. But Siobhan Thompson had this I'd encourage you to check it out if you haven't, in the Unsleeping City, where she's just like, this is wonderful, aren't all these things so amazing, and it's just this over-the-top New York theater actor who is actually like a bard and starts like casting spells and support stuff and all that, and they have more story in the background as well. Similarly, I think Marisha Ray did a one-shot that really stuck with me, where she was playing a turtle bard, and the running joke was all of her like spells and abilities were fueled by having a past of just having so many dead ex-husbands for being like such an old tortoise. So every like knowledge check and spell is just like, I learned this from my third husband, he died in a fire, and like cast fireball or something. It's just an amazing, I love that, one of my favorite one-shot characters ever.
I haven't seen any of these.
Oh, there's a ton of content out there. But yeah, so there's just almost infinite potential on the bards. I know thematically in like Player's Handbook, the idea is like you are a minstrel or a storyteller or some sort of entertainment-based character. But there's there's a lot of fun ideas for a bard. I know there's what was some stuff that I had? There was let's see, yeah, the running gag of the bard that's trying to have sex with everything, because they have a high charisma and they sort of I'm a fun guy kind of thing. Not a necessity. Like anybody spreading stories, I think falls into bard, and
absolutely,
yeah.
If anything, I feel like the whole I don't know, the idea of romance role play or trying to seduce people with the DM just makes me really uncomfortable.
Right.
So I always just did the loud, crazy bard who's the life of the party. Hey, look at me. But I mean, you could go some very famous, very charismatic orator with it. So, oh man, I went to Comic-Con and Critical Role guys were there, and Matt Mercer said that he wanted to do specifically for Liam, the really sad, the really serious guy.
Right.
He wanted to do a college of drama, so you could even do a really deep drama, really serious bard without the crazy hijinks that normal bards get into.
Oh yeah. I would maybe call that the College of Angst.
God, is that guy angsty.
It's just one of those you just the angstiest teen you remember from growing up, who's just it's I spread stories, but they're stories of pain. I think that might fall under, I might call that a reef skin of the College of Whispers from Xanathar's Guide, which is something I will recommend to people if they want to do an assassin type, but they don't want to go with the mechanics of rogue. They want to go they want to be a bard, for whatever reason they're trying to build, but they want that pseudo sneak attack kind of thing. And College of Whispers has you burn your inspiration dice for extra d6s of damage, and it scales pretty closely with sneak attack. So that idea of but it is psychic damage, which is kind of neat. So there's a lot of cool flavor in that.
I think it actually hits its max damage cap before sneak attack does.
Right.
And I only know about that because I have a College of Whispers bard in my group. But I don't really know what they do.
Yeah.
It seems like you got the normal bard flavor, but then you have this ability to do the sneak attack with the psychic blades, which is super cool. But if you had to like break it down into a one or two sentence, I guess like block about what the character is, what makes that subclass cool, how would you do it?
Oh, jeez. I would say it's a bard that can whisper in your brain when it stabs you and it hurts. That's pretty much it. They're a scary bard is kind of the that's probably the main theme of it. It's a scary bard. So a lot of bards are like, "Hey, everybody's great," and like inspirational to everybody, and be like, "You've got inspiration, and you've got inspiration. Let's all get over this wall." That's how,
dance.
I just picture a lot of like Fonzie characters, just or I think that impression is technically closer to a Mulaney. I forget his first name, but the comedian Mulaney has a whole bit about it. But it's like, "Hey, let's get going and do the stuff," or it's like, "I represent the family history of a nation," and it's just like, and then there's this guy who's just like, "You should fear me," and it's just like, noted. And they can back it up with some abilities. Yeah, I would mostly categorize them as the scary bard.
He's kind of taken it in a little bit of an interesting route, because I only know about their, like, I think it's the 3rd level trait where you can talk to someone and instill a sense of paranoia.
Right.
And for some reason that just rings very spy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ability to kind of talk to someone and maybe like circumvent some conversational barriers, and then kind of like give them a subtle hidden meaning to the words.
Right. I don't know if
almost like thieves' cant.
I don't know if this is historical or ahistorical, but I remember something about a detail about how like bards are the traveling minstrels spreading stories, you know, basically informing the public as they travel around, and then spies and assassins would use that as a means of like entry into places. So it's one of those like, "Hey, the traveling bard is here," and they come to the party to tell stories of these distant lands, and it turns out they're a murderer from the other lands. Like they're there to
they're a murderer.
They're a murderer. Like they're there to kill some royal family, not just tell tales of the discovery of cinnamon. Yeah. But yeah. So for like, I don't think you need a special type of campaign for a party of bards. I think you can pull off a normal D&D game. I mean, obviously you could do like the "we're all a band" thing, which could be cool. Could even play into that traveling spies kind of thing, where they're a group of bards and they've been recruited by a kingdom to like go into another kingdom. Like I think of our Wildemount campaign, if like the Empire rounded up everybody who they could trust that would pass as a minstrel, they're like all bards, and they just send them into Jorhas to like, you're on an information gathering mission and you're there to like dismantle this government. I could see that being a whole campaign, but you didn't have to do that. You can just be a dungeon delvey, set of bards who just all took the same class for whatever reason.
Oh my god. I feel like the only way that a bard would be considered a jack of all trade, and not, like you said, a little bit more, is in a circumstance where there was combat. Because it seems like they try and... A lot of the subclasses, have something that's really good, but it's not as good as the fighter, or it's not as good as the barbarian.
Right.
But, oh my god, a whole campaign about, I guess, maybe political intrigue and roleplay?
Right.
With a group of bards, they would be unstoppable.
Right.
There would be nothing they couldn't do.
Going into combat, I think when I first thought about the campaign of bards, I thought they would be kind of screwed on certain levels. But the more I've thought about it, the more they have ways around it. So I think there's a couple of subclasses that get like the multiple attacks in order to kind of keep up in melee a little bit. They get a little later than a fighter. They get it like 6th level instead of 5th. And they get medium armor for those subclasses. The other subclasses just get light armor. So there are ways you can go around that with like racial trait stuff, where you go dwarf to pick up medium armor, or maybe you go lizard folk where they have a natural armor, or turtle also is like just has a 17 AC just always because of their turtle. So you could like stack like a front line with those guys, now you're a little in trouble just because I think one of the only, at least player's handbook wise, the only player's handbook cantrip that damages is the one where you vicious mockery, where you insult someone for a D4 damage. But the more I thought about it, if you've got a front line of bards that have taken racial stuff to give them some amount of survivability in melee, and then a couple people in the back tossing out vicious mockeries to do a little damage, but also cause disadvantage on the first attack of those enemies. You're pinging them, and then they're not attacking that effectively. And then Xanathar's Guide has a bard where it's like a thunderclap around you, and it's just a 5-foot radius, so it's just right around you for a d6 damage. But if your whole front line all does that thunderclap cantrip at the same time, that could be, as long as they stay out of each other's range, you could maneuver that to be like 3d6 damage on something, which at low levels is gonna kill it. And with vicious mockeries causing disadvantage, if you're okay survivability. But I think if like 2 or 3 bards all set off a sleep spell at low levels, I don't think there's anything that's gonna be okay. Like, you maybe viciously mock them as they charge you, which is a funny scene to think of, where there's like there's an ogre charging and like 4 bards are just like, whatever, man, like just like nagging him for
get out of here,
whatever, you're gonna be charging us for what, 3 rounds? And he finally gets in melee, and then they go to sleep. Yeah. You just ping the thing until he gets low enough, and then boop, sleep. So yeah, I was worried about him at first, but the more I looked at it, I was like, no, low levels they'll want to be cautious. They don't have a barbarian in front that's just like, hit me. And they don't get their, like, the lore bards are level 6 before they get their pick spells from any class thing. And once you hit, I think 6th level with a bard party, you're not worried about combat anymore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
God, I didn't even think about that. I remember when we did our campaign, not with Lornfell, with Hubris, my second bard, no, my third bard.
A lot of bards.
We had a paladin in the group. That was Jordan's character.
Yeah.
The French guy. And he left because he had a kid.
Right.
And I was suddenly the melee guy. And as a bard, as a Valor bard, I did okay.
Right.
They weren't, he wasn't the best tank, but he was pretty good.
Right.
And very versatile at everything.
People forget medium armor and a shield is nothing to like sneeze at. Like it's
it's
pretty
no
good. Yeah, I remember you went into that for the hail of arrows kind of thing you can do, where you pick up the ranger spells at 10th level.
Yeah,
that's the thing that the paladin spell for greater mount, and then the ranger spell for the whole bunch of arrows flying in. So you just eventually, towards the tail end of that campaign, you're just flying over in your Pegasus, just raining arrows down.
Yeah, I wanted to be like a flying cavalier archer.
Right.
But even though my guy was super spec'd to be good at archery and long range, like I said, with the rapier and the shield, I did pretty good.
Yeah.
So versatile.
Oh yeah. If this was including multi-classing, I don't think there would be any problems, because like a bard paladin is pretty nuts.
That's something I've never even considered.
Because you're a full spellcaster, so you're getting all these spell slots, and then you're getting smite, and you don't have to go that deep into paladin. You might start paladin for like 2 levels, and then just get smite and have like heavy armor, and then you might just go bard after that, like just straight lore bard to level 12. Pick up the high level paladin spells because you can.
Yeah.
Or well, you'd want to go Valor Bard because you'd want the 2 attacks, but that would put you pretty far behind. You'd be at like 8th level by the time you have 2 attacks instead of 5th. But if you got a mid-high level campaign you're jumping into, a Paladin Bard is super cool.
That's right. And if you got other people who can kind of pick up the slack with you only having 1 attack,
right,
I can't imagine it'll be too bad.
Yeah, it reminds me of a little bit of our current campaign, because we have 2 fighters, the cleric and the rogue, and when you have that many combat capable people for melee, that allows things like our fighter character multi-class into barbarian, kind of not at the ideal level because he missed out on the 2 attacks, but it also kind of doesn't matter because it's just like he's got plenty of melee, so it's pretty fine for somebody to like split off to tank a little better, you know, without too much problem. But as far as for straight bards, yeah, though the wide spell selection I think helps a lot. Where I wouldn't mind having 2 lore bards in the same party because of how wide that spell selection can be. I know one thing I thought of was if you go human to get the spell sniper feat at first level, you would still qualify for it because you're a first level bard. You have spells, so you can take the feat. Taking spell sniper for like Eldritch Blast or Firebolt out of the sorcerer list, having a cantrip that does do a good amount of damage at long range, and then you're just like, oh, you've got your early level long range damage guy like ready to go. It would be funny to have the charisma based caster who has Eldritch Blast, and people are like the warlock, and you're like, sure, and then he can like cast like 10 spells a day. But right, picking up some kind of good range, good damage option. Similarly with High Elf gets a cantrip, although the attacks will be based on intelligence, so that might not be ideal. But having some sort of long range like that, or going with like High Elf or Wood Elf for the weapon proficiencies, so you have a longbow and you're ready to go to like rain some arrows down on stuff. But yeah, I'm not too worried about it. You don't want to make, like 4 different I dumped Constitution characters that are like 4 half elves that all put their 10 in Constitution are gonna die. That will be the pile of dead bards the next party hides behind.
So, looking here at some of the bards, there are some subclasses that I'm not familiar with. College of Glamour and College of Swords. What do those do? I haven't studied everything to the letter, but my brief understanding is how College of Glamour is sort of the flip side of the College of Whispers, like thematically at least, and also in ability. Glamour is the like, give me the attention, and I'm not here to hurt anybody, but you're all going to listen to what I have to say. And then where Whispers is more the like, I'm gonna give you nightmares and stab your brain. And then College of Swords is a nice alternative to College of Valor, where they have both subclasses get 2 attacks at 6th level, where Valor gets you like shield options and lets you use like rapier and shield or longsword and shield, whatever you're doing. Where the Swords just gives you scimitar and no shield proficiency, so you're expected to basically be dual wielding scimitars, and all the abilities are built for that. So they have these flourish abilities, and they have different styles that they can go into. So I think of it like a sword dancer is the image that comes to mind. Somebody spinning around with a couple of scimitars that then also can, when they stop spinning around with their blades, they can just be like, and also I figured out how to cast Wish! Ha So, what a ridiculous class.
Just, the more you think about it, just the silliest class. It's just like, like just picturing somebody who's, like, spin, 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 fireball. But yeah, the mid tiers, if you have 2 lore bards that like both, like one takes maybe fireball and one maybe takes lightning bolt or something, so they have damage types kind of covered. Oh man, that can get real scary. It's sort of a lot of the best parts of having 2 wizards in a party, and a lot of the best parts of having 2 fighters in the party, and a lot of the best parts of having 2 rogues in the party when you have like multiple bards, which it gets more into the exploration aspects, where they got all the skills, kind of literally, because their skill selection is from the entire skill list. They don't have a class list like most classes. They have like pick 3 skills from like anything. And and then lore bards get like another 3 skills. They get expertise in skills, just like rogues do, although at a little different levels.
They get to add, I think, half their proficiency modifier to things that they're not trained in.
Yeah, jack of all trades.
Like, you just get a little bump there too.
Right, and that's the side skills, because they get so many skills that, especially a whole party of bards, it would be I encourage a little bit of metagaming at session 0 as people are building characters to all kind of work as a party, just in general. Like if all 4 people show up and all want to play sorcerers, you got to look at them and say, well, this is going to be a particular kind of campaign then, guys. It's like I had a sword and sorcery picked up, and nobody picked swords. So you could very, very easily have the skill spread where every skill is proficient within the party. Pretty easily, because you can get almost all the skills as one bard. So if you have 4 bards, there's no question. You could have all the skills covered. And so you kind of talk to each other and be like, all right, who's going to be our sneaky people that are going to take stealth and sleight of hand? Who's going to be our super knowledge people who are, going to have a little higher intelligence anyways, so they might as well pick up the, history, arcana, religion, all those skills. Who's kind of the spotter, like the good perception person, who might as well pick up insight and medicine and survival and that kind of stuff. Which should be straightforward to do. You have an Outlander bard came in from the wilderness and picked up a guitar. I feel like I just made up some song lyrics for like the start of a cartoon.
Timmy the Bard!
He was raised by wolves, came in from the forest, picked up a guitar, and like, and then a wolf jumps over his shoulder,
and turns into a motorcycle,
right.
Just like transforming, like, Timmy the Bard!
Timmy the Bard! Timmy the Bard took polymorph and now he's a T-Rex. Timmy the Bard!
Oh my god. Yeah, with exploration, I don't think there's anything that they couldn't do.
Yeah, this is, I think
skills.
I think my notes were, like, exploration and roleplay are just like an infinity symbol. It's just like, bards, they do whatever they want. But yeah, it's, I mean, I love the idea of, like, just looking at the minis that I had on hand that I took a picture of. I love the idea of, like a soldier bard comes in, tells stories of, being a soldier in the army, and it's decided, like, I don't really want to fight. And now he just hurts people by making fun of them. It's like, his line is just like, whatever, Captain Bone Spurs, and like somebody just trips in their mid attack.
My shin. I was thinking like a Viking skull, like the warrior poets.
Oh yeah.
Like you could do something like that too. I mean,
totally.
You can pull so much from history.
There's a lot. It's a really cool class. I think I've got the Ashikar, I forget the name of it. Kalishtar. I don't play in that setting very much. But that Kalishtar lady who's like that sort of like a College of Whispers assassin bard who can sneak in, stab somebody, use the psychic blades to have them like die, and then just like disguise self and just leaves. They spot the disguise self and they go, oh, whoops, and then go invisible and just run away. Like the I could see a really apathetic assassin, almost sort of like One Punch Man, where it's just like, well, there's nothing I can't sneak into and murder, so I just kind of like, whatever, it's just blasé at this point. Yeah. But yeah, you're gonna suffer a little bit because it's not built to have your frontline fighters and your there's nobody. Unless somebody goes like Lorebard and picks like Pass Without a Trace, you don't have the best stealth for the whole party. You still probably have okay stealth for most people, but
Hey man, you could just have an Urchinasi bard. Boom, you're covered.
Ooh, yeah.
Pass without a trace. Racial ability.
Ooh, that's really good. Oh yeah. I think I sent a picture out to somebody. I don't remember the context of it. It's been a sleep deprived week. But the idea of reflavoring a Avatar: The Last Airbender series as a D&D game where everybody's a different kind of Genasi. So you have your air Genasi, water Genasi, fire Genasi, earth Genasi, and I think the joke was if we have 5 players, then there can be one human who has a boomerang. For
Sokka.
Yeah, for Sokka.
He's so cool near the end.
He is pretty rad. Sokka holds his own. People make fun of Sokka, but he holds crap together. And then gets played terribly in a movie.
There was no movie for Avatar: The Last Airbender.
No,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Side note: somebody had one of the best points I've ever seen. I think it was on Twitter at some point, or no, maybe it might have been TikTok. But somebody was saying that the M Night Shyamalan, I refuse to say his name correctly since he refuses to say Aang's name correctly. But when he did the live action movie, people were like, "No, that's canon. That's the play from season 3."
That's what I told Megan. Yes. Like we can watch it. Just keep in mind that it's that bad play.
It's the bad play. It's the bad.
Everything.
It's the bad play. Bad summary play from book 3.
Toph is like the big buff guy.
Yeah.
That was the best.
You're just
best
watching
moment.
it, going like, some of these details are close, but everything about this is wrong. Oh man, oh, God, I love that series. But yeah, the idea of you could do a all Genasi, all Bard party where you're basically kind of playing Avatar: The Last Airbender, but D&D-ized, where you are traveling around trying to maybe gather artifacts or something for some overarching goal, and all the while picking up different spells and abilities, and where you're all kind of jack of all trades and everything else. But you could do that with it. You could do that for an all monk party, or you could do that for like anything.
Oh, so you wanted to do the Avatar thing for a bunch of bards?
No, it could be anything.
Everyone plays
It's one of those all Genasi. That's the Let's Party all Genasi, where it's basically Avatar: The Last Airbender. Everybody's a different bender. But Bard could work with that. It's more likely it would be like a bunch of sorcerers, since you're trying to pull some elemental stuff. But yeah, it was just funny, just because they're traveling around a lot, so you could do a take on it, basically. But yeah, I don't think there'd be any problem with a whole party of bards for combat. I think at first I was a little standoffish about it, because their best combat cantrip does a D4 damage with no bonus from charisma. It's a wisdom save at least, so the low level stuff isn't. Well, actually, some of the animals and stuff have pretty good wisdom saves. Can't really mock a wolf into dying usually.
Oh, he's talking about me. Burr.
This evil horse.
What are the criteria that you've got? You've got combat, you've got roleplay, you've got exploration.
Yeah, those are like what's called like the pillars of play. For D&D, so combat, exploration, roleplay. That's kind of just how I break it down there, and then we talk about some like campaign opportunities and stuff. It's kind of how I organize my thoughts about it. Because I think most campaigns break down into all of those to various proportions, and when you have a character that can't contribute at all to one of those pillars, it's rough. It's not fun. Like when like if you have a balanced campaign of equal parts like combat, exploration, and roleplay, if your character is you've made them terrible at combat through like spell selection or something, like they only took the friends cantrip, and they were like, I always play my guitar, so I have no weapons, and it's like, gonna have a bad time, because you just don't want to sit around twiddling your thumbs in any given situation. Which is what's kind of great about bards, is they can contribute everywhere. 4 support classes all supporting each other Like, I can imagine just, like, everybody... Like, if all 4 of them use their concentration slots on buff spells and just, like, buff the, like, Lizard Folk Bard, and that Lizard Folk Bard gets, like, enlarged and hasted and, like, I don't know, some other kind of power-up, and then is, like, running their own concentration on, like, magic weapon or something. Like, I just imagine this, like, this Lizard Folk that loves to tell stories just becomes this monster and just pounces on things. So, yeah, the... like, I think you run into issues where, like, when it's a party of barbarians and they can't participate as well in the exploration and roleplay aspects, like, if you... It's sort of like when... if you have a game design of a certain number of encounters and some of those encounters are just negated, every once in a while that's fine. You use stealth or something clever to, like, skirt a combat encounter. That's cool. If you skirt every combat encounter because that's your only option of gameplay style, then it can get a little boring because you've completely avoided the whole thing. I think because we've had a game where somebody went the ultimate perception build and just negated the existence of traps. Their passive perception and investigation were so high, I couldn't reasonably say that they didn't see a trap. They would just be like, well, as long as they decided to take a point, it would just be like, yeah, trap, trap, trap. Guy's hidden up there. That's an ambush. And, like, somebody's a mile away, and they're just like, ambush. And it's just like, ah, all right. So then it's just like, so then I, as a DM, was just like, well, we're just not doing traps this campaign. And, but if we had somebody who had built their character to find traps and disarm traps, and that was, like, one of their things they had built it for, then I probably would have had more of a discussion with them out of game about, like, hey, these features just invalidate somebody else's character. So that's how I do DM stuff, where if there's something that's going to completely invalidate somebody else's build, it's one of those, like, do you have to? Like, what do you, like, why are you doing this? Is it just you really hate traps in games? And it's just like, well, okay, that's fine. It wasn't a problem for us, because, like, we didn't have, like, another guy who was, like, the rogue built for finding traps. Nobody else was, like, you know, pumped to find traps. So it was just like, nah, whatever, fine. We don't.
So, yeah. Instead, we had a warlock do it.
Right.
The warlock was the trap guy.
Warlock was just like, trap.
With his, like, 900-foot Eldritch Blast.
Right. Oh, man. Yeah. But, yeah, I think we've probably beaten the dead horse of bards to death here, because once we're trailing off into warlocks, that's pretty much the discussion.
It always does. It did this with Barbarian too. They're just so cool.
Yeah, it's cool to.
Thanks for watching Bards.
Right. So, like, some highlights. If you got a couple people that are, chat it out with the group and say who's going to be our melee bard, who's going to be which skills is everybody taking, what's everybody's backgrounds, how are they coming together. But I do love the idea of this, like, traveling minstrel group that ends up being, like, an adventuring party, and they're just all bards. And I think one of the best things that could probably happen in the campaign is basically the end of it chapter 2, where everybody just beats, like, some clown demon by making fun of it with vicious mockery. It's just like them, like, you clown, you filthy clown, and it's just like they, like, kill this interdimensional being by just, like, yelling insults at it.
Yeah, wasn't it an alien or something like that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Seen it,
I think people forget how much cocaine Stephen King was taking at the time.
Heroic amounts.
Heroic amounts of cocaine. Yeah. Who built this dungeon? Somebody doing a heroic amount of cocaine. Yeah. So, yeah. Play a campaign of bards, and while you're at it, everybody pick up Vicious Mockery at first level, and then at 20th level, just, like, destroy Asmodeus or somebody, all using Vicious Mockery. Like, can't land a hit because of the Vicious Mockery disadvantage. If they're level 20 and you're the DM, let it stack and give it, like, septuple disadvantage. It's got to take the worst of 4 rolls, and, like, It's
I
like,
can imagine he's probably built like a Tarrasque, and he's
Yeah.
got like a plus 25 to hit.
right. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, a great racial option for a bard is Drow. I thought of this a while ago, but most of the bard spells don't require an attack. They're all like saving throw, including Vicious Mockery. The thing you're targeting makes a save. And so the sunlight sensitivity for Drow is just completely negated because it just doesn't come up. You'll have disadvantage on perception, but as long as you're not like the perception guy, then it's it's kind of fine. But yeah, you get a bonus to charisma, you get a bonus to dexterity, you get some other cool racial abilities, including some extra spells. So yeah, a Drow Bard I think is one of my favorite combos. Having because like you have Fairy Fire, which is a great support spell you might have taken as a bard anyways. Darkness is handy in a pinch. The extra dark vision's super cool. But yeah, I love that. I just love a Drow Bard because the only thing that happens bad for playing a Drow is that sunlight sensitivity. But if you're never making attack rolls, it just doesn't come up. So this thing that was supposed to like be such a hindrance that it balanced the race is just isn't a factor anymore.
Completely negated, and you got the cool dark vision.
Yep.
That I think goes out like 120 feet. It's big.
It's good.
It's big.
It's good enough that I think there's an alternate rule where if you play a half elf, you can sacrifice the 2 skill proficiencies for a racial feature. And if you can like sack the 2 skills for like their 3 spells or their extended dark vision, but 120-foot dark vision is the difference between seeing something far enough away you have a whole turn to deal with it charging you, and being like, well, it's gonna be on me if I take a turn dealing with it charging at me. 120 feet, you're like, oh crap, and it's charging, but then you have a chance to do something.
Yeah, well, I mean, even then, I guess this would come up a lot underground, but a lot of monsters, they seem to only have like 60-foot, maybe dark vision or maybe like blind sight. So right. Even then, as a Drow, you could say like, that Umber Hulk hasn't seen us, but there's an Umber Hulk right there.
Right.
70 feet away, and he's just completely doesn't even know the party exists.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember, other editions were more clear about what the distance penalty is for perception checks. I think it's supposed to be like a -1 per 10 feet or something like that. It has been in other editions. I don't know that they've made a clarification for 5th edition, but I usually run something like a -1 per 20 feet or something, depending on the conditions. Just because it's like, well, yeah, that thing is you had a 23 perception check, but that thing is actively hiding and 300 feet away. It's got to have some kind of bonus for being 300 feet away. If like ducking behind a tree, 3 football fields away versus duck behind a tree, 3 feet away, it's got to be a different, DC.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, play Bards. Bards are cool.
They're fun.
Yeah. You get I think you could have, I would go as far as to say, you could have a whole party of lore Bards, and you could theoretically have like no overlap, or no bad overlap, where the extended spell selection from lore Bard is super cool, and having having somebody who can pick up Fireball, Counterspell, Dispel Magic, better heal spells, like you can pick up Revivify as a 10th level any Bard, and just be like, oh, we got some diamonds, and it turns out a bunch of us can do this. Or it might even be an actual Bard spell where they don't even have to use that feature. So yeah, they've got healing, they got damage, they got skills, they got roleplay, they got a little bit of everything. So yeah, you get 4 of them all backing each other up. I don't think there's gonna be any problems.
I agree. Well said.
Totally. Totes my goats. And then we've got D&D on Sunday.
Yeah,
at 11
a.m. Noon too. Something like
11 a.m. I believe is what we said.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Pacific Standard Time. You guys are sailing southward and I have had to do some calculations because your final destination is only 200 miles from your current location. And it turns out that if you have like a 50-foot move speed, you can get there in like 2 days if you just keep flying.
Oh, wow.
It's like it's not that long. So it's one of those, if the airship goes continuously, you know, day and night just flying, then you guys can just get there in less than 2 days.
Yeah, and why wouldn't it?
Right.
I mean, we've got an airsick goblin, but or Tucci. Yeah, no, that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to getting ambushed in the sky.
Right. Well, that's the thing. If you're just flying full speed in the middle of the night at all times of day, with a crew that has at least shown a couple of them to not be that proficient at what they're doing, you know, things could go wrong, or things could go hilariously wrong. Could be all of the
Those
above.
two options, wrong and hilarious.
Wrong and funny wrong. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by, Dylan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll see you Sunday, and I hope I see more people playing more Bards. Bards
Yeah.
are cool.
Do
Ooh,
it, guys. Play Bards.
I do. Talk to your DM about picking up spells from Explorer's Guide to Wildemount for like the Dunamancy stuff, because like a Bard with some of those Graviturgy spells, where like I'm just picturing a Bard just being like, black hole, and just like, everybody flies off into the distance.
There is like a blast wave spell in there.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've wanted. It's something to like, you know, do a shockwave that sends people flying back.
Mm-hmm.
And you could like very much Scott Pilgrim versus the world, like just slam onto your loot and like have this huge shockwave that sends people flying back.
Right.
That is the perfect Bard. That is the perfect Bard. And now I want to play Bard again. I always go back to Bard.
We gotta get, maybe we'll do you and Monkey for the Cleric episode. Get two people who've played Cleric. And
oh my God, I'm so new at it.
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
Right. Yeah, if you got some Graviturgy spells to like force people's movements, especially because there's a bunch of spells that like do like area of effect damage continuously, like in one spot, gets this radius is dealing 2d8 damage every time they enter, and then you have a Graviturgist who's like, if like they run out of the area and you just go like boop and like pop them back into it. Yeah, you're just getting like extra damage constantly. It's pretty cool.
That's clever.
Yeah.
That's devious.
All right, mate. Well, see you Sunday.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.